In Virginia, a bank robbery explodes in violence.
Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
Spraying bullets from automatic weapons at anyone in their way. The robbers disappear. With no reliable witnesses, the police and the FBI have to decipher fragmented evidence to identify the shooters and then bring them to justice.
Despite what you see in the movies, most bank robbers come in quietly, pass a note, and slip away. They want cash, not bloodshed. But in Richmond, Virginia, a pair of gunmen entered a bank with their guns blazing. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. The raw violence of the crime shocked even the most seasoned investigators, who vowed to catch them before they struck again.
Throughout the 1990s, Richmond, Virginia averaged about 10 bank robberies a year. Prior to 1997, not one of them was fatal. On the morning of January 30th, 1997, the employees of a small bank on the east end of the city began the day's business. 23-year-old Christine Edwards, one of the bank's tellers, arrived for work.
Do you know how long these ones are to commentate? 49 minutes long. Okay, the teller is going into the bank like she usually does. I'm sure she's quite innocent. She's probably not ready for anything too out of there.
Her colleague, 21-year-old Tracy Freeman, was already there. Allison Davis, a customer service representative, and Richard Hartman, the bank security guard, also began their day. Stephen Reed, a regular customer, arrived shortly thereafter. He entered the bank as the tellers finished setting up and was greeted by Hartman.
Good morning. How may I help you, sir?
No one saw the two men slipping in the bank's rear door.
First National Bank, how may I help you? Oh, yes.
When the men struck, they did so swiftly and without mercy.
Ooh, they went right in and handled the tellers right away. There was no demand.
80 yards away, Richmond police officers Michael Webb and Dave Martin were at a convenience store getting coffee for their morning shift.
Hey! Something's happening in the bank. Where? I heard gunshots in the bank.
The bank. About a block
The bank
down?
right up the street.
Excuse me, back up. Hey, there's gunshots at the bank right down the street.
As the officers responded, Richmond Dispatch ordered backup units to the scene.
16 respond. 929, 116.
At the rear of the bank, the officers spotted a security guard lying in the parking lot.
The bank, man down. Looked like he'd been shot.
We're going to the front now.
Officer Martin guarded the front as Webb went to check on the guard. He was still alive. Barely. Webb called for an ambulance. Then, two armed men emerged from the bank.
Stop! 119, 10-5 to 119W.
Shots are being fired, units.
Webb emptied his clip. The officer knew he was pinned down and outgunned.
Not sure why I wasn't subscribed there. I most definitely thought I was subscribed, but it is a cruel game that God's put us in. He can be a cruel God sometimes, and it is basically up to you whether you want it to be good or bad. And sometimes those bad ones overpower the good ones.
They stopped shooting. I stopped shooting. I just knew these two guys were going to come each side of the vehicle after me. I changed magazines and sat there and waited for a couple of seconds.
But the gunman never came for him. Officer Martin left his position to back up Webb, but the assailant surprised him.
Ooh, he's lucky he didn't get shot in the back in that reenactment or whatever.
With only a service weapon, Martin was outgunned, which allowed the robbers to get away from him.
How do these slime buckets have a more powerful firearm than an official? Didn't he have a rifle? Maybe they didn't have rifles in the back. In Canada, we have 223 rifles. I know many police officers, and they have a 223 rifle in their vehicle with them. Actually, I think it's only sergeants and whatnot. Maybe, quite possibly. And it sits right in the middle of their vehicle. And if this were to occur, that's when they're trained to then pull that 223 rifle. So if I was this officer, I wouldn't have jumped over. I would have just been shooting my 223, sighting with my ACOG or whatever type of attachment is there. Quite potentially different types of attachments are used and whatnot. And you could have probably just picked them off from the wall. But let's see where he goes here.
The officer could do was report their position as they escaped across the cemetery.
You could have easily picked them off. Now he's going for his radio. Okay. And he could have put a couple in their legs, if you want to be like that, humane, and then that would have took them down.
With black jacket toward Divertown Road, 2 men.
The Richmond officer saw a cloud of red dye, a sign that the gunman had stolen a bundle of money containing a timed dye pack.
It's just a complete mess altogether. The money's partially destroyed. With a trained individual, these ones would have been downed immediately. Okay, so the man was quite old or whatever. He only had his little small service pistol. I think times have changed though now, and now they carry better. They carry the rifles. Some of them, quite possibly they don't, but we have to get these rifles, like especially out of the hands of these ones. And these ones have become quite powerful. What is it called? Then it's a pursuit. Now you're putting more lives in danger. Sorry, within the city, such as women and children and things like that. It could have been taken care of almost immediately had that man had his rifle.
The men leapt over the next wall, and the officer lost sight of them. The dispatcher forwarded the information to the Henrico County Police Department. Officer Martin searched the neighborhood, knowing 2 men with automatic weapons could be around any corner, but found no sign of the suspects.
Radio.
An Henrico patrolman arrived on the scene. EMTs arrived. They tended to the wounded guard outside. Richmond police entered the building,
Police, everybody down! Stay where you are!
looking for any other gunman that might still be inside, and to check the condition.
We've seen the gunmen, okay, but I understand why they're securing the location. But the gunmen are with those 2 stooges with the baggy clothes. You just could have picked them off from the get-go or whatever. See, there must be some corruption going on where they're keeping the automatics out of the hands of the ones that should have them, and then the terrorists have them.
Employees. They found 2 tellers. Both shot.
Okay, yes, they secured, and they have these deceased tellers, or on their way to be deceased, or quite possibly could be saved, which is another thing, which is understandable.
Okay. Come on out, man. Come on, everything's fine.
Allison Davis had taken cover.
Come with me.
This one quite potentially could be with the suspects, playing a role of distraction as well as what is it called? Like an alibi sort of thing. Not really an alibi, but sort of a distracting alibi while they get to safety. She could be an insider.
Okay? Everything's okay.
She was not injured, but paralyzed with fear and taken to the hospital for evaluation. After clearing the bank, the officers felt it was safe to.
And why I believe that is the other ones were of the African American race, and they had killed the 2 Caucasian women, but then they left that African American woman behind unscathed.
Let the EMTs care for the wounded. For teller Christine Edwards, it was too late.
What's gone? Forensics responding. A squad and forensics responding. Supervisors for
Okay. Tell me where it hurts.
Tracy Freeman, in severe shock and bleeding heavily, was stabilized and rushed to the hospital.
What a beautiful woman to have lay there like that.
Along with Richard Hartman, the security guard.
Now you got that one there. Do you think he's trying to save the white woman with the white husband, or what? Let's see. I don't think does she make.
At the Richmond Police Homicide Division, Detective Tom Leonard was disturbed by the robbers' brutality.
This was our most violent bank robbery that we can remember in our history. So our fear was they were in the neighborhood and we needed to get them off the streets.
Leonard headed to the bank. Officers collected items dropped by the robbers when they fled, including a Lorson 3.
That's something good for a long investigation. They could have been picked off from the get-go, but We like to play cat and mouse, I guess. But this one's a good one for the cat and mouse game. We got a handgun retrieved, and let me guess, through a long line of cat and mousing, we find out who did it.
.380 semi-automatic handgun and the clip to a Tech 9, another semi-automatic weapon.
Tech 9s and all this, and I mean, look at that rapper Tech 9. He's promoting it, and then he gets the money for that Tech 9, and he gives them that. This is where they're getting their Tech 9s and all that.
A canine officer with a tracking dog began searching for the suspects. The dog followed a scent through the cemetery. On Art Avenue, the dog lost the trail. Henrico and Richmond police canvassed the neighborhood, asking the residents if they had seen any strange men fleeing the area.
Rita?
But no one saw anything suspicious. Detective Leonard arrived at the crime scene with an evidence technician.
We immediately shut down that bank, and the only people that were inside the bank was myself and forensic people. So as we went through the bank looking for forensic evidence that we could pick up and look at, we found a lot of spent shell casings which were fired. We had some that were unfired.
But potentially, this could lead to the taking down of the whole organization, right? You got the casings now. That's going to link you to who put these guns into the hands of those two ones. And you're looking at a much larger bust when you do capture those ones. But I stand by, you could have picked off the guys from the get-go. Okay, then you wouldn't have to deal with them. But it's all by this legal justice system, right? They don't want you. But people are getting shot left and right anyway. So what's wrong with the guy bringing out his rifle and putting them down or whatever? And then you can come and check this. So it's a real bad one that the FBI had to get involved in, because look at how outmanned their local police, or outgunned their local police were. And it still goes on today. Let's continue to listen. Yeah.
Found a lot of spent shell casings which were fired. We had some that were unfired.
Those shells were 9mm, likely used in the Tech 9. Behind the teller's counter, investigators found a backpack, apparently left by the robbers. Inside was a piece of green tablecloth, a bottle of charcoal lighter fluid, a box of matches.
And you don't gotta get too specific about what chemical makeup the flammable chemicals are. All we see is a flammable, and what's this?
And a note reading, "Please wait 5 minutes."
And you know, you could say, oh, you're wasting time on a pre-recorded. Okay, but this pre-recorded can be used to educate ones about current events. Also, this organization could potentially still be out there. Remember, if you know organized crime, it starts with the boss, the capos, the et ceteras, and yada yada. These ones were the soldiers, only the soldiers. So if they busted just the soldiers, there still could be potentially a boss out there that commanded these two soldiers to do this heist and then bring back a cut to the boss. And that is what we're dealing with.
We couldn't figure out what that was all about.
On the surface of the teller's counter, investigators spotted several boot prints. They preserved each print with tape which they would later compare with footwear collected from potential suspects. Because
They're saying it's Rick Ross. I keep hearing it's Ross, it's Rose, it's William Roberts, it's Birdman, Wayne, and then some of the other ones. Okay. They're killing themselves with their alcohol and their marijuana consumption anyway, but that is who they're saying it is. All right. And then they got their minions that they're bringing up.
the bank was federally insured, police called in FBI Special Agent Wayne Waddell from the Richmond field office.
Let's go ahead and see what we can get on this.
At the bank, he and Detective Leonard checked a videotape that had recorded several surveillance cameras simultaneously.
They say, "You sure you want to do this, Stacks?" Listen, I've been doing this for years. This is how I've made my living. And Ross isn't here, and I've dealt with Ross. I've dealt with him. He's not as tough. He's a lot smaller than I thought he was. Okay, he's a lot smaller. Just so you know, his profile is a lot smaller than what you would think he is. Right now, Gunplay's kind of big, but that William, he's shrunk, you know. And he's getting quite old. We can see quite potentially that that organization could get, and that Gunplay was supposed to be convicted on some charges. Somehow he got acquitted, which we believe, and I believe, out of my own public opinion, must have been a product of corruption. We have the video footage of him conducting that robbery and assault. Let's see if I can pull it up here. And then there were several other ones. All right. See you here. How come you don't need witness testimony on this one? It's just been continuous issues with these ones, and they're invading our country of Canada and trying to do organized crime, and they just left a lot of messes, or they left a complete mess up in Canada, and they just never could. It just never worked out for them, and I want to see it happen down there too.
But there was a problem.
Oh man, Tom, look at that. We got a problem. Something caused the film, in our opinion, to not be working correctly. It went one camera to another camera to another camera, and you were getting different angles.
Gunplay and them cannot get the proper weaponry. I've seen them with some small arms up in Canada, and they've tightened the border restrictions, and there is quite potentially going to be in addition to the terrorist watch list with their names on it. All right, that's what I'm pushing with for them. I really want to see them put on at least a watch list. And that Gunplay, I've heard and seen, is a convicted pedophile. I've seen some documentation surface on the internet quite some years back, and I don't understand why he is not on that registered sex list where we can all search it and things.
From the front door, the rear door, and from different teller positions.
They would need to make still photos from the individual frames to get any useful details. Special Agent Eduardo Alfred joined the investigation.
And it's like, this guy, I can tell you right off the bat, he's gonna just do his you know, these black men are generally, they got a lot of energy. And he's going to outweigh the case on these other ones. They just don't give two flying fucks. I'll tell you that much, all right? Because I've worked for these guys. And they let some petty guy shine on my project, on my domain, with no legality. All right? And my project was one of the best projects to come forth in the history of the United States.
He knew the FBI would not stop until the gunmen were captured.
I'm sure if you talk to every person that was involved in this investigation, they would tell you the same thing. They wanted to stay on this case around the clock, which essentially is what happened.
Evidence collection at the bank lasted for hours.
They're saying my project already did its due diligence, and it could possibly come back in the future.
Later on in the evening, at around 5:30 or 6, we received word that Henrico County had received a report of a break-in. I went over to the break-in site.
It was on Art Avenue, across from the cemetery, not far from where the K-9 unit had lost the trail of the suspects.
We didn't know if it had anything to do with the bank robbery or not. A young woman that lived there with her father found the front door had been knocked open and went in the house and discovered a lot of items that appeared knocked around or perhaps taken.
When Special Agent Waddell went inside, a Henrico officer pointed out a hole in the ceiling. It appeared someone had stepped through from above. They feared someone might be hiding in the attic. No one was there. They searched for evidence. Investigators found a pair of boots. They also found a backpack and a coat. Inside was another note reading, "Please wait 5 minutes." They also found another green tablecloth. Red dye like that used in bank dye packs covered many of the items.
So we absolutely felt that there was a connection between the house break-in and the bank robbery.
But they didn't know how the two crimes were related.
You know, crime pays, but it also can land you in jail for a really long time. So, as you can see, these ones are fairly clean. But look at that hole in the roof or whatever, in the attic, in between the attic and the main foyer area or wherever it was. And so that was where they messed up. But this might be a distraction. Okay, these people are good, all right? Because crime does pay. But also so does law enforcement. But law enforcement only pays so much. Crime pays much more. Okay? But the chance that you take doing the crime if caught, but if good enough, you won't get caught. Okay, so we need some incentives to where if they can nab certain ones, and they do have that in certain states, where they, if they make that bust, they're able to seize and then they sell it at auction, or they can keep it. Like I remember the Cape Coral Sheriff's Department seized a lot of those donks and they turned them into police vehicles. Okay, I've seen them, police donks or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, so you can see here. No, these ones might not be it, but the Cape Coral Sheriff's Department has one. It used to. Let me see. Cape Coral Sheriff's Department. It probably won't be searchable, but you used to be able to drive by, and they had it parked in their within their fence or whatever. And I always thought that was cool. But it's not. It's more than just cool. It's an incentive. But we need more personal incentives as well. What is it called? You probably wouldn't be able to find it, but there is that to keep law enforcement and things like that motivated, to where if you go above and beyond, like the criminals are going above and beyond, but on the other side, you will be rewarded as well. Then you got ones, that might join the other side while they're in their position, because that can be highly rewarding too, I guess. And everybody is out to get the American dream. So then it becomes on who's playing on which team. Okay, and law enforcement's got a really good player on their team right now, as of right now.
We had no idea why the bank robbers would come to that house. Was it an opportune moment? Did they know someone there? Was there something that drew them there? Was it?
And I just heard a sound in my apartment. It was coming from the wherever. It was sort of a, but I always make sure to keep one headphone speaker, whatever you would call it, or speakerphone, I guess. I think they call it, right headphone. I either keep the right or the left one off so I can hear. Make sure that I can hear my surroundings. And don't do the music or anything too loud. So you can always, you don't want to get too caught up in these, not just this one, but music and movies and all that. Now I do love a good movie in a movie theater where you have it nice and loud, such as in your home. So a lot of people have home theaters. That's why those really nice security systems are nice, where you have that app notification. But even with that, and oh my gosh, like Wise, let's see, Wise Security, you can, and it gives you a notification to your phone, say if there was any security alert, and you could be in your movie theater, and you would get that notification. Now, some of these people quite possibly could be even good at technology, where they could interfere with your Wise communication devices. And I have encountered that, and that goes back to those bosses again that are getting really, really high up in that regard. Now, that goes against, so it's just like, it not only hurts the people there, but it also hurts the company. Nobody's gonna, but it's all about money at the end of the day. Once they sell the device, do they care if it actually works? Because that's a whole other legal process.
Happenstance, we had no idea. We interviewed the owner and his daughter and the daughter's boyfriend. And you interview these people because what are these bank robbers?
Whoa, another quite loud sound. I better go check it out. It's Buddy next door, and he's quite a wild one. And the police came and did a knowledge. But that was a little bit sketchy because they tried doing one of those to me before. So they indicated a corruption because I seen their patterns. And I know from my experience in another city that a lot of the police are smoking that methamphetamine. And it's a savage game. So we hear that gentleman once again in the hallway making sounds and whatnot. He appeared to have I heard a woman's voice with him. And they said, he had indicated that he's a man that's been criminally convicted before and is currently going through a case. Now, those police officers, that were captured on surveillance video, which could be subpoenaed. Now, it all comes down to the money which I am allocating. So where to obtain that security footage in the unfortunate circumstance that there would be some corruption. Now, that's just something of legality to keep in mind for my own, as I have faced the corrupt nature of some of these individuals. But that, and we got another sound there. Now that, it is getting to be late, 8:41 p.m. on a Tuesday night. And what is today? It is the summer, okay? But that potentially is a scary thing for many people in the building as well as myself. So I definitely will keep these headphones off. I mean, with this man's history, he's seen in one of my videos actually, flashing lights. You can go take a look at that video. And so that is his identity. I have his full identity. And like I said, I can recollect the look of those officers who may have done. See, I was making a tuna sandwich at the time. And I went out, they were making some loud noises. But how I know it was a setup is, while they were about to say search warrant on the next door neighbor, they didn't. I think they were going to say search warrant, but they were actually looking for me to come out in the hallway to take a look also. And I went out to the hallway to take a look, and they were conducting some sort of knock and talk with him, who quite potentially was in violation of, say, an appearance in court. So there's definitely something going on with that character next door in a violent and drug-induced nature, which is much different than from what I, in my personal life, have ever dealt with, and because I am quite sober-minded. Now, I do have the desire to have a drink, but I just can't when these individuals are around, and I don't suggest you do, even if you were in a good position, because that would incapacitate you. See, this is a non-stop game, a game without mercy.
What were these suspects doing in your house? And we're trying to find, is there a link or is there not a link? Diamond brand?
The residents were equally confused. They reported that whoever broke into the house stole some men's clothing, suits and jackets. During questioning, the boyfriend acted nervous and claimed he had no information to add.
About what time did you get here?
At the hospital, a Richmond detective sought out the wounded victims who could provide eyewitness accounts.
Yes, ma'am.
But he was unable to see anyone. The two wounded survivors were still in surgery and could not be interviewed. Allison Davis, the customer representative who had escaped injury under her desk, was so distraught she had to be heavily sedated. Stephen Reed, the customer inside the bank, had been grazed by a bullet and had come to the emergency room on his own. But he was also of no help. He had Alzheimer's disease and could not remember any useful information.
By the end of that first day, we still had nothing more than what we had to begin with. So we knew there was going to be a ways to go. It was going to be a tough case.
In Richmond, Virginia, two armed bank robbers escaped with $10,000 cash, leaving 2 employees wounded.
You know what, now that I think about that, I received quite a weird letter today from the individuals in which the company in which I rent from, and I had seen some sexual interaction with another gentleman from one of the representatives of that company. So one of the representatives of that company I've witnessed a sexual interaction between her and one of these potential people. And then all of a sudden today, I received a weird letter from them, addressed to not me, but it appears to be a falsified name. All right, and then I called them, their offices, and their offices picked up, and I said, and I have the recording, and I said, "Hi, I received a letter not addressed to me," and things of that nature. And then she said, "Well, the office is not open." And I said, "Well, what's the number to the office? I'll call tomorrow." She said, "It's the number you just called." And I said, "Okay, and can you please recall that number to me?" And she gave me the exact same number I called. And she sounded like she was in office or whatever. And I'm thinking, what a weird situation. And it didn't hit me until now with all those weird noises.
And 23-year-old teller Christine Edwards dead. The community was stunned, as was Assistant U.S. Attorney Nicholas Altamari.
This girl was an angel. And these guys, they just walked into the bank without a word.
Now, I am an owner of a gun. All right, and I'll let this continue because I don't want to look like I'm threatening that man or whatever. Where could potentially, if I were to suffer from a home invasion, I would be capable of lethality. Now, this would be considered evidence within the courtroom that I have now linked all these things, such as the weird letter, the sexual interactions, previous linkage of these groups when it came to their aggressive natures, and I also have the phone interaction. So I'm looking pretty good in court if I were to have to defend myself. Now, I don't think these individuals have that capability, but I do at the same time. And I don't believe that they will win if that were the case. So they will not win in court, and they will not win in that regard where I would have to defend myself. So it looks like it's another night watching FBI Files.
And the customer that were in the bank.
Now, I don't know where they're going with that letter. Okay, it could potentially just be an honest mistake. Or it could have been anything. All right, it could have been anything, but I just thought that was just a slight bit, off.
Bank is they were all traumatized. We actually could not talk to any of them for several days.
The detective tried to interview Allison Davis, the customer representative who had taken cover under her desk and escaped injury. But she was too traumatized by the ordeal. Hospital staff had to sedate her. She was unable to speak. There were no witnesses available to tell investigators what actual
Now this one is going to be called the a weird letter. And I will tell you that my capture software is muting itself by itself. So there's definitely somebody behind that, I think, that is muting my voiceover, and that's why you didn't hear me exactly when I was, and that's happened quite a few times. So that might be the man himself, Bill Gates, or his affiliates. All right, that it's been a rumor. You can search it up, and it's more than a rumor. They have the ability to control personal computers that are running their operating system, Windows 10, so they could potentially be involved with crime if they don't let these ones out, which is scary. Now that Bill Gates once popped up and hit me in the back of the shoulder with a hammer, and he's never been charged. And by the time you see this, or by the time I'm older, Bill will no longer be around. He'll probably be deceased. That is how much older Bill is, and I don't wish anything upon him. But he is what, 60, 50 something? So in the next 20 years he'll be 80. Oh, he'll still be around. Oh yeah, he will. Okay, so there's no getting rid of some of these ones. What's this? Shipping confirmation. Awesome. I have a new suit on the way. Now it isn't as nice as this gentleman's. You know, there is no tie, there's no overcoat, and it's just a shirt, and it's not this one. Alright, but it is a decent one. Decent one.
Really happened inside the bank. All they had to understand those events was a flawed videotape of the surveillance cameras, according to Detective Tom Leonard.
That really caused us a problem trying to piece things together because we were missing little bits and pieces of the video, so you didn't get to see the whole robbery occur like you normally would.
Working with...
You know, I think it is a good idea that I quickly upload that phone conversation as well. That gives me another area of security in case potentially I were to lose my hard drives and things. Where I have that backed up, I also have a server out in California where they would not, which is in the security of YouTube Incorporated, where they would not be able to delete, hypothetically, if there was a really bad situation where they were highly equipped, but I made it out alive, but my devices were stolen, I would still be able to reference in court that phone conversation. All right, phone conversation about a weird letter. And it was quite sexual, so I will add that heart there. Let's see. A phone conversation that correlates with a weird piece of mail that I received from the housing corporation that I rent from. Which also links to another set of individuals that I mentioned in my recent FBI files commentary. which also references to some corruption, some potential corruption, potential corrupt police, or criminals on the run who were featured in some of my videos. Let's see. Anything else to add? Oh, you can also see that weird letter in my vlog selfie entitled "A Weird Letter." But I will tell you that they have then left, the ones that were making all those noises and whatnot. Alright. Now that potentially could have been a setup, because if you watch that video, flashing lights, and even before, that man got in my face quite a few times, and he said that he was, see, it's not available right here. You would have to go to my channel right now until it indexes. That he was, you know, and he was Buddy, that he was involved in some assaults and whatever. So I don't know what the heck is up, alright? But there's definitely something going on. Okay? And I don't want any problems. Okay, he knows I'm trying to do good. I'm trying to be a good man. I don't want in these streets. I don't want in these streets. I want to get out of these streets, and I have been for a long time. I never really was a street cat. Okay? But it does get weird. Okay? I know how time proceeds and whatever. And you know what? I think I understand what goes on in this one. Oh, it looks like they did make a capture. So it might be something. This one looks like G Herbo. Okay, a slight bit. And then they waste our resources saying, well, G Herbo is a legitimate music artist and all that. But he isn't. He also distributes narcotics, which is illegal. So if his music, so what if his music's generating revenue? He's still violating the law when it comes to that distribution and things, as well as the countless other ones that they're doing. So it's just wasting our time. But I'd really like to watch the rest of this one, but I don't really want to record it the whole way. But I pretty much get it, all right? Because this one's an old one, and they've already made their busts on these ones, all right? But these are soldiers. They may be laying down for somebody up higher. Okay, and then the world goes on, and there's your Ferris wheel and yada yada.